Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Friday's edition of Morning Brews. My name, of course, is Brian Smelts, and today we are talking about one of my favorite topics, being responsibility. So this came to mind yesterday as I was busy putting out some fires, but I have 3 bullet points for you. Number one, know what you're responsible for. Two, learn how to take control of it. And three, understand passing the buck doesn't solve the problem. So, in the grand scheme of things, employers always want employees to take responsibility. Employees rarely want to or feel the need to take responsibility. And at the end of that conflict or disagreement, the problem still isn't solved. So if you know me, or if you were in the army with me, or you have spent any time around me whatsoever, I am not a huge fan of the employer expectation of the employee to take responsibility. I do believe that individuals should take responsibility. I don't want that to get confused. I think that if you are responsible for causing a problem, then you should be able to take ownership of that problem and do your best to show that you're taking responsibility for it and rectifying the situation. However, I don't think it is helpful to point fingers at people or try to determine whose fault something is. So know what you're responsible for. Yesterday, the problem that we were dealing with, there are so many people involved in the process, including myself, that at the end of the day, it is pretty irrelevant who is responsible for it. However, some people involved in the conversation wanted to focus on a quote-unquote teaching moment, and an unsolicited lesson is not always well received. So, spending time talking about this is why we should do it this way and why we pay attention to these details. Once the problem has arisen, especially when someone involved is aware of it, it is more than likely already understood. It's almost like your kid refused to tie his shoes before going out, tripped over his shoelaces and bust his face on the sidewalk, and you immediately start to tell him that's why we tie our shoes. He gets it. He gets it. So, knowing when to bring up quote unquote teaching moments, which is more than likely when they're asked for, because nobody likes to have that unsolicited quote unquote teaching moment brought up to them. I am not a teacher. I am not going to run around and tell people, this is a teaching moment. No, this is the problem. This is what's fucked up. This is what we're going to do to fix it. And then that's the end of the conversation. I don't care who was responsible for it, because pointing fingers to try and determine whose fault it is not going to fix whatever the problem is. If someone comes to me with a better solution, I'm okay with it, and if not, we're going to use mine. Let's move forward. So anyways, number two, learn how to take control of it. If you're not willing to take responsibility for the things that you are responsible for, it's going to be more difficult to take control of them. But learn how to control the things for which you are responsible. If there is a problem, once again, there's nothing I absolutely hate more than pointing fingers and shoving it down the throat of the kid that just busts his face on the sidewalk. That's why we tie our shoes. But if you're the kid that busted his face on the sidewalk, understand that in the future you can tie your shoes. So understand what it is that got screwed up, what role you play in that situation and what you can do in the future to help prevent it. I think it's also important if there's more than one person involved, like there was with my example yesterday, then if you're holding a conversation with someone about that specific incident, then being sure to let them know that you recognize what was screwed up and what you can do to be a part of the solution in the future. If all you're doing is pointing out where they made a mistake and what they can do to fix it next time, and you're not willing to communicate to them that you're willing to be part of the solution in the future, then maybe this isn't as much of a team effort as they originally thought. So make sure that if you play a role in it, you make that known. Yesterday, it was very obvious what role I played in the situation, what I could do to prevent it and make it right in the future. But excuse me, not all people involved were willing to communicate the same willingness to be a part of the solution or be a part of the team. So make sure that if you are part of the team, you're able to take responsibility for what you're responsible for and communicate that in the future you'll make sure to take control of that portion of it to help prevent future problems and be the solution in the existing problem. Understand that passing the buck doesn't solve the problem. So as much as you want to point out that someone else is responsible for something or it is someone else's fault, it doesn't matter. You're either going to take responsibility for your portion of the problem, be a part of the solution, or you can keep your mouth shut. Because at the end of the day, you can be a part of the solution or part of the problem. You can help or you cannot help. Those are your only two options. There's no in between. There's no middle ground. Nobody likes the person running around saying, oh, this is a teaching moment. Here's what we can do in the future. No. We have a problem. We need to make sure that the problem gets solved. And only people willing to take responsibility for their portion of it are the ones who are going to help contribute to that solution. So, once again, understand that as much as you want to run around and point fingers, I don't care if you're pointing fingers at your employees and you're upset that they're not taking responsibility. You absolutely cannot expect the hourly people that you have hired to own up to their mistakes. At the end of the day, as the person who's in charge, you are solely responsible for every single thing that happens under the roof of your organization. If you run around expecting other people to take responsibility for the problems that occur within that organization, then you're just wasting your time. We all know that the lower quality of individual that we hire, the less likely it is that they're going to take responsibility. You should take responsibility for that fact and understand that if that's something that bothers you, then you should do better at hiring people, not trying to teach people who aren't willing to take responsibility how to do so. So you can improve your hiring process, you can fire the people who aren't taking responsibility, or you can realize it and tell them what they're going to do to fix it. And then if they don't like what the solution is, they can offer a better solution in which they will more than likely have to take responsibility for their portion of the problem, or they can do what you say, or they can leave, which kind of brings us back to the original potential solution anyway of you hiring better individuals. I personally have never gotten a job to see if I can learn how to improve myself as a person. My self-improvement and professional growth has always been attributed to my own preference. So if I'm working on my interpersonal communication skills, or like on this podcast, when I work on my clutch words, then I do so by either consuming content I have deemed necessary to help me with that or practicing it. I did not go get a job at McDonald's so I could learn how to speak better and better Control and eliminate clutch words. That's not what people do. No one shows up to a job so they can get that golden teaching moment. Okay? So if you are looking at improving your employees as individuals, then you either need to present the fact that you have an open door policy and you're willing to help people with that and wait till they come to you, or present that as an expectation at hiring, not hire the person and then all of a sudden assume that you're going to make them a better person. There is absolutely nothing that they want more than to clock out and go home so they don't have to hear you say, oh, here's a teaching moment. To me, it's almost like nails on a chalkboard, especially when I didn't ask for it. I am 100% for personal growth and development and professional growth and development. I believe I've improved substantially as a person and a professional since I've gotten out of the military. I believe my 10 years in the Army directly contributed to my leadership abilities, as well as my understanding of how organizations operate. However, as soon as someone walks up to me and says they have a teaching moment, I shut down because I didn't ask for it. And if I want to grow as an individual or a professional, I will either ask for it. I have my mentors in place. I have the people who provide coaching for me. I speak with them on a regular basis, and if you're not one of them, then there is absolutely nothing you can say to teach me anything. So that's not because I think less of you as a person, but just put yourself in that position where you have not asked for any advice or insight into a problem, whether generally or specifically, and I walk up to you and start to tell you how I have a teaching moment for you. It would probably irritate the crap out of you as well. However, learn how to take responsibility, what you're responsible for, learn how to take control of it, understand that passing the buck does not solve the problem. My name is Ryan Smeltz. If you gained anything from this episode, then please leave us a 5-star review. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Tell your friends to subscribe as well. If you are sick and tired of hearing me say that, then you probably don't listen to any other podcasts because they all say it. And the reason they say it is because it does help. So help get the word out. If you like our longer form episodes, then be sure to check out the website. The link is in the description, in the show notes below. You can listen to all of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts. That's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this. I will see you on next week's episode of Morning Brew.